positive, healthy environment. Established on a solid foundation of knowledge, Baldwin Academy emphasizes academic excellence, respect, responsibility, character, and exemplary citizenship. Would everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. It's going to be the roll call. We'll start with Mrs. Belisle. And we have Mrs. Belisle virtual tonight. Mr. Buchkowski. Here. Mr. Carly. Here. Mrs. Clinton. Present. Mrs. McEwen. Present. And Mr. O'Brien. Here. And for the record, Ryan is present. We do have a quorum. We'll proceed forward with the agenda tonight. Or do we have any additions to the agenda tonight? All right, seeing none, I'll motion for approval. Any objection to that? Seeing none, the agenda is approved as distributed by unanimous consent. And that will bring us into our business at hand for tonight, for school safety and security presentation by Ed Shepard. So to give everyone here kind of an idea of how we got here, I will give you some dates. So I met Jimmy Graham back on June 20th last month. And we had asked Jimmy to come in and speak to the executive admin team here at the school to discuss some of the things that we can do to improve our school safety and school security. The executive admin team felt confident in Jimmy and bringing him forward before the teachers and staff. And we did that on July 11th and we brought Jimmy in to speak to just teachers and staff. And from there, we set up this town hall style format tonight where Jimmy is here to present what Ed Shepard can do for Monument Academy. After Jimmy is done presenting tonight, we will open this up for a Q&A and we welcome any questions that may come from those of you that are here tonight. Let me give you a little background on Jimmy. So Jimmy down here, he has spent over 15 years as a U.S. Navy SEAL, earning the rank of Chief Petty Officer E7. And during that time, he earned certifications as a sniper, joint tactical air controller, range safety officer for live fire, dynamic movement, and master training specialist. He also served for 7 years as an operator and lead instructor for the elite federal government protective detail for high-risk and critical environments, to include Kirkuk, Iraq, Kabul, Afghanistan, Beirut, Lebanon, and Benghazi, Libya. During this time, he earned his certification for federal firearms instructor, simulation scenario qualified instructor, and certified skills facilitator. Jimmy has trained law enforcement on the federal, state, and local level, as well as fire department, EMS, and dispatch personnel. He has traveled across the nation training communities in order to enhance their level of readiness and response to active shooter situations. And tonight, we are honored to have Jimmy Graham here with us tonight, and I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Test. You guys hear me okay? I like to walk around so they give me this loud air mic. As a brief extension of introduction, more important to me for all of that stuff you just read is I am a husband and father of 4. So I have 3 girls, 1 boy, 14, 12, 8-year-old boy, and then 4. We work hard in our local communities to try to bridge a gap from what we've seen when I entered this field in 2012. It was the attack that happened in Benghazi, Libya happened between my second and third deployment there. There's a lot of principles that transfer over from the CIA's GRS program, that's what I was a part of, that was my team in Benghazi, Libya. More so than the SEAL team and sniper and joint tactical, all this other stuff, that model that is used for embassy placed over any building makes it better. Whether that's a school, whether that's a civic group or a church or a home. So we're not trying to create Navy SEALs. We're not trying to create SWAT teams. We are trying to make our environment safer. So I think it's important that I lead with that. When I step my foot into that world, I tell people this, I had 2 of the coolest jobs for a single guy with no kids, right? Then I got married and had kids, and they kind of lost the luster. And now, a lot of my energy goes into investing in those children and going to church and going to school and seeing some of the security procedures. I just see them differently than most. And I say, hey, we can do better than that because our taxpayer dollars have paid to make them better. We've learned the lessons the hard way, and we can benefit. The problem is that we don't share The federal government, the local government, and then security guards, they just don't, there's not some forum where they share lessons. Right? So it's going to take a guy like me to say, that's 15 years old, we don't do it that way. But not as what I call stump the chump. We're not trying to look and poke eyes at people in Uvalde or people in Broward County. We're just saying there's a problem here that needs to be addressed. I always say, if I see a better way to do this, I'll start teaching it tomorrow. But the models that we have built, we've developed, we do something on our 10th year. So this is 10 years from this year. You just learn a lot when you do something all day, every day. A lot more than when people do it as a side job or a collateral duty. Especially when you have skin in the game. I just spoke at the Western Conservative Summit and was able to take that stage and just talk about saying it's my responsibility to protect my children. I work hand in hand with my educators, I work hand in hand with law enforcement because we are on the same team. I want to see safe children, and so do you, and we are on the same team. So I'll just present briefly on what makes us different, what we're presenting for people to consider nationally. Tomorrow morning I fly to Texas to do this same thing with an auditorium full of people that involve police, school, ambulance, all first responders, the local elected officials. We were trying to get an audience with the governor that's heading up what really happened in Uvalde. So after that meeting, I wake up and drive to Uvalde, Texas to see where we can add value. So what makes us different, first off, is called the USA Standard. I came up with this, obviously, USA stands for all about uniform, safe, and accurate. It means everybody has to be on the same page. Again, we're on our 10th year, people say, I can't believe you're capitalizing on tragedy. Here's the truth. I always talk about this. The nation sometimes listens. Right now they're listening, so I must talk as much as I possibly can. SEALs and CIA guys, there's a thing called the quiet professional. When you transfer the business, you still need to be professional, you just not be quiet. So yes, I'm going to stand on some rooftops and see where we can add value. What I've seen is that if you're not on the same page on practice day, you're never going to be on the same page on testing. If you're not safe with a firearm, you shouldn't have one. If you're not accurate under pressure, then you shouldn't carry that responsibility. So that's where everything starts. You must start there. If you don't start there, you start there. So everybody must be on the same page. Run, Hide, Fight was a good start. It started out in Texas about 8 to 10 years ago. It was easy to remember. Run if you can't run, and then hide. If you can't run or hide, then you must fight as a last resort. The problem is, in real-world emergencies, you don't get to pick how they happen. So they're not chronological. So fighting may not be the last scenario, it might be the first. Think of Stem Sheet, Henry Castillo, or Pomiro. He got up and addressed an active shooter, like a killer, and when he did, he lost his life. That saved countless others. So there's real-world examples that we've seen here in Colorado. We are really close to this in our local communities. I've received phone calls to be trained in half the shooters come back. And we've, it is a little bit unsettled raising my children in this community where Colorado seems to have this situation. So, on the defend training modules, this was not to poke an eye again, run, hide, fight. Run, hide, fight doesn't cover a lot of this stuff. If you train with this, if you're law enforcement, emergency medical, anything like that, you know you'll be run, hide, fight, and you do much other stuff. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I've seen trainings go like this. Hey guys, there's a new thing called run, hide, fight. Read the thing in initial paper and they staple it up, and that's the training. There are schools, well included, that just completed and got certified for active shooter training. I would encourage you to say, what exactly was the training? Did it check a box or did it provide capability? That's the only thing we do is provide capability. It's not less than checking boxes. I'm interested in capability to protect children. So we came up with the defend training modules. The first thing that it says right at the top, let me present this to you guys electronically. The situation will dictate one of these modules. You don't get a pick. The situation is. So what might be good for you might not be good for her. Like she's closer to the door. She needs to evacuate. You may have to fight because you don't have a choice. That's just reality. So reality dictates this. There's a thing in the industry called reality-based scenario training. What does that mean? Let's go do it. Let's mess it up. Let's be honest and let's get better. And if you do that, it's a very, very healthy track. If you look at that track, it's the exact same track used by the SLB, by the CIA, by the SWAT teams. Anybody who's really good, that's how they got there. Just for some reason in this area, that seems to be skipped. So the defense training is defense, evacuate, fortify, emergency medical aid, notify others in your immediate area, and 911. So take a second to just describe it. Defense is the widest in variety because it can mean something as simple as somebody who's going to punch you in the face. You know to keep your hands up and lean forward and make your arms 90 degrees. And in doing so, they're stronger, and you didn't get punched That's better, actually, than getting punched in the face, especially if you're legally armed. Someone punches you in the face and takes your gun because you're knocked out, you didn't protect your firearm. So certain things on the face of it that could apply to anyone. Defense also means those people that are going to come in, I've heard people say, guns are not the answer. Guns will always be the answer in the scenario. They're law enforcement's guns. They're going to be coming to your aid. Let's put it differently. The answer will always be people. The answer will always be people, right? So you invest in your people first. That's one of the models that we talk about. You invest in your people first before you buy cameras, before you buy all this other stuff. Is there a plan and do you have the people available and trained to enact the plan? Even if it's a supplement. I walk into places all the time and they say, where do I start? I talk to this because, ma'am, if you heard some kind of violent encounter, maybe gunshots, what would you do? She said, I don't know. Let's start there. She should have an answer, right? So I'm not just here to push the most extreme situations. The defense can mean all of that and more. It is the thing that's worked since the beginning of time. Here's a principle for tactical training, especially in the protection. If my kids, my daughter's right here, to get to her, you have to go through me. That's the only thing that's ever worked since the beginning of time. To get to her, you have to go through me. But then that should be hard, right? So there should be some kind of practice thing saying that I am physically going to defend my children if necessary. So that's a good place to start. The next one is evacuate. Evacuate means where are we going to go if we have to leave this room? What about this building? And how are we going to leave? If it's just a fire alarm and we leave, we've seen that already when that was some kind of ambush or diversion tactic. It means look before you leave. You better look before you lead others in that direction. If it's a bad deal, turn around and go another way. That needs to be practiced because people just run. The people that work there should have a plan. And these are powerful words as long as people are scared. Follow me. And then you start walking. In a tactical setting, it's called on me. That's what was missing in Texas. I was just on Stephen on the radio talking about this. On me means this. I'm in the front, you're in the back, there's one more element, a step. So if I say on me and take a step, it starts an action. And it only takes one. Because in the hallways of that, I've been saying this all over the place, in the hallways of people, if somebody said on me and step, it's very, very unlikely they would have gone on me. Because once one person steps, you're going to look back and there's going to be 6 people behind you. But they didn't. That's the problem. So you must know a little bit about how these violent encounters work. So evacuate means follow me and then go to the place that we talked about before. We talked about this before. There's a problem, right? So evacuate means where are we going to go? Fortify means fortify a bulb. Is that hard to get in that room? Right? After the snip shoot, there was a door like that. And does everybody know why there's glass in the doors like that? Part of it's to see what's going on in there and keep everybody straight, the teaching and all that. The other thing is so you don't jam that door into Billy's face. Right? So it's a safety issue. If you bust out that door and hit that crash line, the door opens. Right? So if it opens, that's a problem. Right? I see that you have some security. If you put that in there, that's going to be a different thing. So we need to make sure that when we say lockdown, we feel safe. We need to be able to lock down, and there should be some kind of resistance. Time enough for me to assume a posture so that when I do get in here, I've got more options. So emergency medical aid means, in a nutshell, just like CPR, I believe it should be common practice for stop and bleed treatment. That means tourniquets, wound packing, maybe chest stitches. Why? These are super easy. Within an hour, you can do this. I recommend a 2-hour class where you can do some scenarios and tell people to forget and show them and remember. So if you can do these things and create what we call a safety culture, whose job is it to protect the children? The common answer should be fine. If everybody said that, the safety culture says it's everybody's job. It's every adult's job to protect children. And we recognize that as truth, you won't need to go abroad. You won't see somebody else do it. People say, it's my job. And then when we do it, we have people begging us to do it, right? And that community that builds actually strengthens. It's one of the best team builders I've ever seen in corporations. But it's like, hold on a second, it's my job to protect someone. And then we do this thing, and we grow stronger because of it. It's very easy. Notify others in your immediate area and dial 911. I usually link these together when I'm describing them because notifying others in your immediate area, we can't rely on technology. Remember this. Technology exists to make a human response more effective. Technology exists to make a human response more effective. So if you're in technology, that's a human being, you know earlier that there's a problem on campus and they want to go with that. Your technology gets the responders to the solution faster than better. But if all you have is technology without human beings to pull it off, well, you see what you get, right? You see, we've learned that lesson too many times. Cameras will record what happened. They're not going to stop anything from happening. So that's what we really need to look at. The other thing is that technology can not only notify others in your immediate area, but also dial 911. So there's a thing in Castle Rock. I live in Castle Rock. I'm right up the street. Dial 911 right? So the 3-minute response time, that's if somebody calls 911. But if they don't call for 10 minutes, we run these scenarios all the time in real schools and real churches and real city groups, and people forget. Why? Because they're helping children, they're saving their own life. They haven't called for 10 minutes. That's 13 minutes. We can do better than that. In Uvalde, there was a 3-minute response time. Then a long delay for 74 minutes. So in 77 minutes, then we actually got to the root of the problem, and that's not okay. So that's, and I was criminal law enforcement as they come all the time. But when there's errors, when there's a problem, we want to get to the solutions. I don't really get into like the point fingers and doing all that. I'm saying there's a problem, we need to do it right now. And I'm not saying somebody else should. Accountability says let's start with me, and that's exactly what I'm doing from South Denver. And we have people that drive in and fly in from all over the country, and then we go back out. But it means I see the problems and I'm not afraid to address them. And then again, provide solutions, meaning a measurable solution. How do you get people to be in a situation where they can actually do this stuff? Everybody in an emergency has a responsibility. That's everybody. It means even the children. That sounds horrible. If I've been in a situation in the parking lot where it got a little heated, and when I turned around to check on my family, my wife had the kids call late. Late just means grab a hold of her. It means they had a hold of her. She walked into the Lowe's, and I handled the situation was gone. But that was a practice thing. I didn't freak my kids out. It might look a little weird. If I'm walking into Cabela's, I get out of my car, they walk up. Before they even step out the parking lot, they touch me somewhere. They touch my elbow, they touch my pocket, and they let me go. And I know they're not going to get hit by a car. Why? Because they're connected to me. For them to get hit, I have to get hit. So I can feel it. When I look back, I see four little heads back there, where we go. And I'm walking across the hill. But really what I'm doing is training them for that neighborhood as well. Because that's what we need. And it just happened because I showed them. That's a big deal. So even children have a responsibility. Not to freak them out and do some kind of crazy drill. It's going to scare them. Everybody on the deck and fire rounds and like that. It just means can you stay quiet? Can you do that all? Can you head that way? Can you stay connected? If they let know I have to stop. All these things can be done before the emergency. We talk about those people getting to that level of responsibility or capability. With that capability of addressing those threats realistically, there's a responsibility. And I have to prove it. Remember these words anytime this comes up. Show me. Show me that you can do this. Because this whole sheet of paper and calling it good and saying I'm a security guy, it's not enough. It's not close to enough. So there needs to be, we've created what we call a phase schedule, where you must, and people don't like failing tests. They have a test here, they have a test here, they have a test here. And if they don't pass the test, you're not safe for yourself. You're not safe for the team. Once you're hanging out here, it's safe. You're either uniform, safe, and accurate, or you don't move on. And you'd be surprised if you know how churches, schools, and civic groups actually take this on as a collaborative duty. So in this crazy situation that I don't like, we do something or we do nothing. I'm choosing something. I came up with a plan, and I've told many, many people, if you get a plan, I'd love to hear it. It just means people. The fourth phase of this is just the transcripts. It blows me away that these don't exist already. Testing standards, this is the transcript for principles, transcript for life. It means you show me you do this, you show me you do this. Because on every elite level I've looked at, this is normal stuff. We cannot skip this. It's a responsibility to do these kinds of things, to be able to put people in that situation where then they have to make split-second decisions with our children. The fourth thing that we'd like to talk about for people that are building schools currently is that before any of this happened, it was on my heart to schedule a napkin and say this is what schools should look like in the future. And I've invested a lot of my own money into thousands and thousands of dollars of 3D modules of how we can provide 30-second response times in schools across the country. That's all we presented in Texas when we were this week. So there's many, many things that we can do if you already have a school to take those lessons and implement them and say, hey, we can do better in responding on protecting those in our care. Any questions thus far? Want to stay here? Sit down.
It's entirely up to you. If you're good, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions for the community. Please feel free to just walk up. I'll be very surprised if we don't have any question.
Sir.
Seems like we're leaning towards the art teacher solution. And honestly, I'm not 100% I heard law enforcement and the military talk to a lot of people, and asking a teacher to bring in and be armed and be ready to respond. That concern. I'm concerned about what is the teacher expected to do if something happens in alcohol. They expect to pull out their gun, keep their students unattended, and go respond. What does that do when it's a coordinated attack in institutions like in Colorado? What about the teachers? How are loyalty divided in protecting their students? In my opinion, the number one job of the teacher is to lock the doors so their students not to respond to a shooting. I've heard law enforcement talk to me about in live shooting events, police officers said that engaging on multiple occasions, nobody got shot that was supposed to get shot. And these are trained law enforcement officers who go to range, who go through tactical situations. So I guess I'm concerned that I have not heard any options other than the armed teacher option. The faster training armed teachers. I believe, and I could be wrong, that you're advocating armed teachers. If I'm wrong, I stand corrected. But I would like to take a step back. And has anybody gotten a vulnerability assessment to walk in unbiased and no preconceived solutions in mind to say, here's what I'm going to do. Thank you.
Well, excellent question, sir. Regarding the vulnerability, assessment, there has been assessments done in the past here in Monument County. I'll just speak about.
Yeah.
There has been vulnerability assessments done in previous administrations here at Monument County. We have identified some things from the past that have been addressed. However, part of bringing in Able Shepherd is that is one of the things they offer. It is a non-biased approach where they come in and they want to educate not just armed, but unarmed staff as well. We understand it is paramount that we get everybody on the same page for this, whether they are unarmed or armed. And that is something that Able Shepherd is able to do in coming in and assessing some of our vulnerabilities. As the board president, something I have seen since coming onto this board are vulnerabilities within these campuses that I am actively working by bringing in potential classes. But we do have vulnerabilities that have been exposed, and I'm not going to be comfortable sharing what I see in this format. Obviously, that is not what we're here to do, but ultimately addressing those. Regarding teachers, if a teacher is armed in a classroom, the expectation of me, I can speak on behalf of this board, is they stay with their students. It is not their job to go out to the hallway and engage the potential perpetrator, whoever that may be. But what I would like to see is that we have people in non-teaching roles that are still part of the Monument Academy, whether they are some type of administrator, facilities, whatever that may be, that their role would be to engage a potential perpetrator inside these campuses. So that would be my objective, but I'm only speaking on Ryan Graham, not on behalf of this board. If Jim Graham wants to as well.
There's a term best practices, and it can get laughing just because anything that someone wants to sell becomes a best practice, right? But I don't think it would be a commonplace thing to have the teacher that's in charge of those students to leave that home to go address a situation or neutralize a threat. Just a quick lesson for those who don't know this. Post-Columbine, there was a new response protocol that was called, and this changes a little bit per SOPs or per standard operating procedures in Colorado and national. There's a contact team and a rescue task force. The contact team are the first person on the scene. Preferably people, but person. The person that steps on the property during that situation is in command. They don't need to call to get command. They can call and say, I'm the contact team and I'm making mention. And they're going to go and they're going to step over her children. They're going to go past the scenario. They're going to do all this stuff. Why? Because the problem here is compounding. The problem is that someone is hurting people. The solution is someone needs to stop it. Right? So that contact team, and remember, these are first responders. So everything in them wants to help children. They have to be trained to not do that. Because the best thing you can do not for this little situation is make that stop. So that's basically what works in that scenario where there is no person now. Should that be a teacher? I would say, and I would say, if we're going to make me carry a gun, if you have to make anyone, it's a bad plan. If they don't want to do it, it's not the right person. Because you know how you're going to be successful, right? But people say, should this guy respond? And he just happens to be a 6'5" guy that wants to be as a teacher that just retired from Afghanistan like it's this year. But people quickly dismiss teachers as if they don't want to do it. And I've had situations with teachers and with businesses where the only questions we get is how to run the team. Right? Because in some of us, that DNA says, no, that's exactly my job, is to protect the children. Right? You know, I get it. The first part, you should be educating children. That's right. If you're going to lock that door and protect children, good. That's your job. Again, everybody's responsible to the best of your ability to protect the children. What happens when that door opens? That's just the truth. And if you can't defend yourself, and this is the thing, if I can defend myself and I place myself in front of a child, guess what I'm doing? I'm defending that children. Now, if I can't, we're going to see how that plays out. There was a hero in San Diego. She was the principal when she addressed the shooting. But she did not have the capability. And she lost her life, and so did they. That's just the truth. That is scary. But we deal in facts, and that's exactly what happened. She had protector's heart, but she had the capability to do it. To an armed invader. It was an 8-pound soaking scared kid. This is not UFC fighter from your nightmares. This is a scared kid with his mom's gun. Right? There wasn't a capability to do that. So I think that, yes, there should be someone coming. A healthy place to start a plan is if the police don't come. If there are serious situations in this community, you may not get an officer. 2020 showed us this. You call the police and they come. You've got no one to say. Everybody's short. I talk about it. They're all incredibly short. And if they're going to a bigger school, you get 0 officers. So we are with the High School up north. We train their security team, the directors and all that. The healthy place to start is this. If the police don't come, there's no plan. And if they do, it's never come. So that is a great place to start. It means when everybody is locked out at night, someone's coming. That should be an individual that doesn't have signs and children to them. A person that's proven they can do it. If they can't show you, there should never be a responsibility. You should never set up for success. They will never be able to be successful, and that's what we will. Well, you've built a plan for it and continue to improve. Because this is an ongoing thing. As technology changes, all this stuff changes, we must continue to adapt to this. But that is the answer. The answer is problems concerning kids. The solution is something must stop. Ideally, some of that children, either in our own security capacities, or this, either administrative, again, everybody knows it's my program. I have to re-qualify every 6 months. What is that? It hurts. There's certain things that we can't do anymore. And without reassessing my life, one of these things is awesome. When I turn 45, he's going to be the picture. How did I know that? Because my shoe was on. I'm no longer taking my ability time to see the doctor. Right? And if you don't stay on top of that, your body changes. You walk around with the capability that others think you have. And then you evolve the habits and the truth comes out. And nobody likes it, but it's always there.
You're from Hasbro, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you work at I forgot the exact name, it's not that, King's Academy or something?
Second classical academy.
What?
Was it second classical academy at Kingsway?
Kingsway.
Kingsway was a Christian school.
Yeah. Right. That was.
My kids did go to that school a lot.
Right. So did you help set up the security over there?
Yeah.
You did. Okay, so what are we asking them to? I know you gave us this presentation. Is the board asking that he come in and evaluate the school to give us more of a plan if something happens? But I mean, I'm used to your work, so what are we trying to do?
It's a great question. The intent of tonight was to bring us out engage, have conversation. After this portion of the meeting, we go into executive to discuss some confidential matters surrounding school safety and security. And then from there, our intent would be to come out of that meeting and potentially take a vote to adopt approval moving forward to Jimmy Shepherd and Shepherd to the grant. However, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that happens because I'm one person on this board, but that would be my intent coming out of the executive session is to have a further conversation, dialogue, to
So we have an assessment that quantifies it, just turns this into numbers, whether yes or no, so it's very easy. Yes, no, and then it scores it. And then we provide points for consideration, and then we help build people with this capability as they're going to prove it. We have some standards that are set. We get the training and assessment, and the ongoing assessments of success.
Well, I would say I have seen a school that he has worked with and the security in that school. It's no longer there, but it was a very, I thought safe. I was volunteer with them for a small amount of time. And I thought safe bringing my kids, walking in the doors, where people were, things like that. I think that's
Thank you for that. It's very good to improve the overall
yeah,
experience.
I'm very familiar with it.
Other questions, folks?
Hi, my name is Katrina. Thanks for the presentation. I do have a question. It's a big question. You're talking about arming teachers and staff. What are the legal implications if there's a crisis and a teacher shoots and kills another teacher? What are the consequences? I think it's important for the working here that you suggested.
I have been aware of the school, and it was being partially helpful. I didn't have to field many questions from it. Not go too deep beyond the legal advice for that because it's a public meeting. But I will say that there's quite a bit established insurance protocols for how a school that would engage armed staff members. And by the way, there's a statute that facilitates the engagement of staff members as additionally as security agents and to be in concealed carry scenario and not uniform. So that's all legal to do. The insurance question is probably really the pertinent legal question in terms of what happens on the back end. And the good news is all of the Colorado schools that have done this pathway, it's my belief that I think it's well informed belief that they haven't had a shooting incident in any of these schools so far. That's a deterrent factor, we'll see. But it's mostly an insurance question.
There are, I'll speak to the churches, whether they're mutual, there are different riders that you can get for insurance that you should have in place with anything. As I read through these, there's always those pages saying to the best of your ability, meaning that you were doing something to help, right? There are people in this room, I can scan the room, I can guarantee there are people in here, like me, that say, I don't have any choice, right? Some people say, I must do something about this, and I don't think about that. I have law enforcement friends that say, Jimmy, if you're in there, and I see that you got a gun at your shoot, I was like, how about that? There's two things going on. They're not here. These are my kids. I must do it. And we train deconfliction, we train walking banners, we train all this other stuff. And if you don't train them, it's very real. Just happened in our life. The Good Samaritan that lost his life. He was a hero. And then he picked it clean up because he wasn't thinking. It didn't go well for him. Right? And again, that's what I train. Anybody that is trained that, that's not a good idea because the keys are coming. First objective, which was a threat. Second objective, don't shut up big guys. Right? If you don't train that, things just kind of happen. We need to make sure that you think about this before the situation, anything else, before this kind of thing, because we must think about the what ifs, because some of us, that's all we do is think about what ifs. I walk around all day thinking about what ifs. So I'm a good guy for this job, right? And then you play around with other schools, and you see that churches, law enforcement agencies, and we heard the comment that these guys are training tactics. Do you think, does anybody know how to control active shooter training patrol officers? 1 to 4 hours per year. I can't do much with 1 to 4 hours. Right? That's per year. We ask this much as a police officer, this much as a shooter, and their whole life depends on this. The coward of the hours, that's not a good title to be walking around with. That's the guy that title takes his life. He didn't know. Right? Yes, it's fault, it's his fault, he didn't know. It's his job to go. But he didn't have training, and that's not his fault. His training department, his chief of police, that goes all the way down. So we get these morals that are saying, remember, and we just got to let them push.
Jimmy, if I get through to that. So there's a law that's passed called the Clarity to Safety Act.
a safety act for schools and school districts to take prudent measures and to be responsible in thinking affirmatively about how they need to make themselves safer. And so you've seen the advent of SROs, school resource officers, at a lot of schools, including a lot of charter schools now. And that didn't used to be a fact. It's because boards like this now have an affirmative duty to take best prudential measures to keep their schools safe. They now have an additional sort of legal obligation. So that gives rise to these sorts of conversations, and that doesn't mean I would prescribe this particular solution, but it's a plausible solution as you think about the duty that these guys have.
And I summarize for the one thing. What I'm hearing is, if a teacher kills my daughter, then the teacher is not held liable because they were trying to help, but insurance covers all costs. That's what I'm hearing in short version. Is that correct?
That's, yeah, I don't know that that's statement coming so heavily. I would say, no, I wouldn't say that. Okay. I would prefer your other.
Sorry?
I would prefer your other.
Yeah.
That's kind of,
And this is why I get to talk with you guys in private session and get more specific responses to that very good question.
Okay, so that's not an answer then, really, but we can move on.
Sorry, you have a question?
Yeah.
So I have a couple concerns. I think that we're not looking to enforce because we're in trees, right? I think that one, this meeting probably should have been held months ago. The school starting, and I feel like we're not plan for this year. That's a concern. My other concern, so I'm retired military, my eyes aren't very good. Is that still okay? So I'm going to tell you that, and I'm sure you can understand. I think it is irresponsible to harm any teacher, despite the amount of training, and I'm sure it's quality training. It's irresponsible. I know guys that are active in this spend years. They spend years training on their assigned weapons to do a specific job. And I can tell you that probably half of them couldn't do it with each other. And that's in training. That's not in real life. When you get a bullet shot at you, when you're in a real life situation, it's done. It's done. If you haven't trained for that every day, you're going to fail. And what's going to happen is somebody in your room is going to get shot. And it's not going to be the injured or the school shooter. It's going to be somebody else. I think it's insane. Teachers are here to teach. They went to school to teach. They're qualified to teach. You pay them to teach. You don't pay them to be security guards. You don't pay them to have a gunfight with a school shooter. It's insane. It's great in paper. It's great in theory. But in the reality of it, it's not going to happen. As much as everybody hopes it's going to happen, every teacher who's trained by you or somebody else to walk around with 45 or 22 or 38, that's insane. I don't even know how that's a discussion. I think we should have a discussion on evaluating school safety for prevention. If you stop the school shooter from coming in, that avoids the whole thing about arming teachers in the classroom. If you put the proper equipment on the doors and you compartmentalize the school, it's much more efficient than having a school teacher have a gun. That's insane. On top of that, I have 3 children in my home. My weapons are not leaving my state. They don't do it. I don't clean in the house, my kids don't even know they look. But you're expecting a teacher who has everything else to do during the day, teach kids, do assignments, make sure all the kids are where they have to be. You also expect them to have proper weapons control. I mean, there's so much more going on than just train a teacher for, I'm sorry, a little bit later. How long is the course?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. How long was SEAL training?
6 months.
6 months. 6 months to train somebody who's already been qualified on the weapons to be so proficient that you can rely on them without having to worry about it. And you're expecting a teacher to do that in weeks. We should stop having that discussion. It's not practical, it's a dangerous discussion, it's a dangerous path to go down. It's insane. Like, I'm at a loss of words on how ridiculous we're focused on going.
For the record, I've seen 0 active shooter training.
I'm sorry?
I've seen 0 active shooter training. Are you comfortable caring for him this week?
Yes, but it's also training. Military, right?
It's a blanket statement against teachers. I have teachers that come to me that are that protector that want to know how to be responsible. So, I absolutely, I apologize that this is even a thing. Like trying to make sense out of nonsense. Like teachers should not have to deal with this. Teaching has changed, and for that I apologize. This is the world we live in, and I want children to live in it. So we're looking for solutions, and I absolutely
Right,
agree.
but I've seen trained military professionals in combat. The minute they hear a bullet whiz past their head, they lose it. They lose it. And they're trained, they're preparing for this their entire career, and they lose it.
Can I answer some of your questions? So, understanding that it appears that we just keep this up tonight, this has been a conversation that's been going on since December of last year. After this school here in East Campus received an alleged threat against another student. That was identified by me as non-credible hearsay. In January, we created this board, something called the Threat Assessment Team. We appointed individuals inside this campus to look at other facets of our internal security measures, including mental health, evaluations on students that may present problems that nobody's taking record of, nobody notates. So there's some of the issues that have been identified by some in other school shootings. In addition, we have people inside these campuses that are previous military, law enforcement. This is not for everybody. We are not expecting teachers to carry a gun without potentially proper training course or having some type of background to begin with. You know, if you were a previous law enforcement officer, previous military, gathering is that you would feel comfortable with those guns, and you're safe accessing those guns to stop someone turning into your home. That's our expectation, is that people inside this campus are going to protect these kids at all costs. You know, we live in a world now that this is becoming a little more commonplace than probably what you and I are used to growing up, and that's assuming we're around the same age. But as the board president of this school, protecting these children is a non-negotiable for me. I will do everything in my capacity, in my power, to make sure that we have people that can meet the last resort if needed. Now, again, I'm one person on this board, but this is something that we need to implement in both campuses, and I stand by that. And I appreciate your concern greatly, and I don't take that lightly. We've been having this conversation now for almost 8 months. And every board meeting, we have talked something to this extent. We brought in FAST, we brought in concealed things. We sent out surveys to the community, we sent out surveys to parents, we sent out surveys to our staff and teachers. 2/3 of our our staff community, or parent community supports this notion for us to move forward to protect these kids. And as a father, I can relate. I don't want to be in the concern of what this lady over here has. My student, my son, my daughter is killed. But I understand that we have to do everything in our power to protect these children. That is what we're here for. And that may not be what you want to hear tonight.
No, sir, I understand that. What I'm saying is we're focusing our energy on the wrong thing. I don't think arming teachers is the solution. I think the first line of defense is that order and all the entry points, right?
And tonight, every single one of you walked in through a vulnerability at this campus. Every single one of you identified a vulnerability, whether you knew it or not. A front open door. And how often does that happen at these campuses? It doesn't matter to me if we have compartmentalized areas. Things happen. Students leave the court crack, teachers leave the court crack. Whatever the situation may be, errors happen. And those errors are exploited by people that are intent on bringing harm in this school. And even though we can put all these facets in place and all these protective measures, there are errors that happen. And I cannot sit up here as the board president and look at that and understand that we need to do everything in our capacity to protect these kids.
Right. Let me pose one question for you. And I've seen it, I'd say probably a dozen times in all my years in the military. And again, we're referencing the military because they have constant weapons training, biannually or more weapons training. Okay? Let's just put this in this narrative. Your kids and my kids are in the classroom with a teacher. That teacher makes a mistake, drops the weapon, doesn't clear it properly. Some malfunction on that weapon, and there's an accidental discharge in that classroom. That's more of a chance of happening than real life. I've seen that trained military professionals, and I'm sure law enforcement as well, have accidental discharges. So if this is a conversation we're having with weapons in the classroom, then we better be having more of a conversation on mitigation, training, where and how that's going to be done. I just can't.
Let me ask you this question. Guns and walking away from your safe at home. Your kids have access to that safe. No. Exactly. So our teachers potentially had one safe bolted to the floor, firearm on there. You think those students have access to that safe?
No, that's what I'm saying. If we're talking about guns in the classroom, we need to talk about where it's going to be kept, how it's going to be handled, and the process that happens.
That's all part of this discussion tonight.
But that's all. That's beside my objection to the teachers with weapons. That's means in the example that you gave about my home and the school classroom. I understand what you're saying, but to me, I've been in real life combat situations. I'm telling you, it's totally different. And I'm sure you can attest, it's different when you have 30 kids in a small confined space, right? Or 1,000 kids in a school, with everybody doing different things and everybody not knowing what's going on. Then me in my home, with my children, with my wife, knowing the surroundings, knowing every corner, understanding the whole situation, right? The whole picture. It's different. So it's not comparable. It's not comparable. I would never, if I was a teacher, I would never carry a gun.
You would not have to.
I understand what I'm saying is, and I've been trained on it. I carried a 9mm for 15 years. It just would not happen. Because I don't feel comfortable. I don't want that on my conscience that there's 30 other kids, 30 kids around, and something else happens. So I'm just saying, I think we need to focus on one, getting a plan for protecting the school from entry, right? Identifying vulnerabilities. And I think that's where we need to start. Maybe a security guard or somebody who's trained that can go through the course and do monthly, every 3-month training, something refresher training. Once every 6 months, that's not enough. It's not enough for somebody who's not trained initially to go for 4 weeks and every twice a year training. That's not enough. It's not enough for me to feel comfortable as a parent having a teacher train like that with my kids and that. So appreciate your comments.
Just, there's not a security guard that I know in this state that can pass this way. I agree. There must be a standard that blows my mind as it is not. If you hire a minimum wage security guard that's in the school, that's what you're going to get. And I don't mean that to discredit the security industry. It's not set up for training. The numbers come from just a multiplication group staying in school. And we get a lot of calls from Living Valley High School. We went that route. They failed us miserably. Now we're not talking to you. So this is a very misunderstood. Law enforcement does not they do not do our shooter training, SRO, combat training. All this. You just saw many men fail miserably. That is a reality. And that's not why lack of training. Reality-based training. Showing you don't get the job. That's as blunt as I can do.
I'm Thomas Daniel. I've got kids today, so we do their first year at on the academy in Lyle, Texas. Which is really happy to have this product now because my solution for this was good practice. And I hope there's the option for teachers to hopefully carry their firearms. Because it would be insanity to have my kids in a classroom. You never know what's going to happen, what fails. They're sure to come to school. And to be able to do 40 kids in the classroom, it's not young. So to me, that would be insanity. This amazing country is not utilized a tool. It's a tool. It's the same way chainsaw is a tool. It comes from a country that is beautifully upside down. And I grew up with, you got staffed for multiple cocktails and everything like that. So I know this program does not apply, but the fear to me was totally different one. My kids have been home for the last 2 years because I was not letting them go for conventions. And this is the first time they go back into I actually have incoming sixth graders in my first year here as well, coming out of school. We have armed teachers, and I felt very good about that as a parent. So I feel slightly differently, but I have a military background. My husband does have a concealed carry license, and we feel very safe in that community. My question though too is just about how do you, just because you're new to the school, you mentioned something about sort of red flags of kids that are prone to maybe this sort of behavior. We see that obviously with all the school shootings that have happened. I'm just curious, sort of, what is the policy here? What do the teachers do? What's the protocol for sort of seeing these and helping those students that might have these red flags as a way to help prevent a situation like this occurring? I'm just curious.
That's a great question, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot. And she just gave me a red, like she knew she was about to put on the spot. Ms. Angela Duca, who's our assistant principal here, would you mind coming up and speaking to that, or standing there, whatever you're comfortable with? Forgive me.
Good evening, everybody. To answer your question, we do have a threat assessment team. When there is a red flag, we have a process for that. We put a process in place. We worked all semester on the process. We worked with folks that are experts in this, and so I feel very confident about our process. We do have counselors, mental health folks on the team as well. So when we do get notification, we start the process and go through that. It's very thorough, and if there's any questions that I have, then I have folks that I can reach out to as well. Does that answer your question? Good. Good.
Maybe something that needs to be brought up. I was here 2 board meetings ago, and I heard, I believe it's the principal that said that there are somebody at both campuses that has already volunteered to be this person. So I don't know if that was mentioned. I didn't hear that mentioned today. So somebody has already said they want to do this. Are you the training for Colorado First?
No.
No. So with the arming of students, as I understand it, Colorado First has a separate training that includes mental health assessments regularly. And I know this because I was at the board meeting 2 weeks ago. And you're something totally different. Do I have this right?
I'm not familiar with Colorado First, but
Isn't that the one that arms the students, or arms the teachers, or arms somebody in the school?
so there's a program called FAST.
FASTER. Thank you, I apologize, wrong words. So FASTER has a different training program than what Abel is saying here. He's trying to get everybody on a page I don't even know if he didn't even say if what he's talking about has guns involved. He's totally different, right?
That is correct. So faster, your target audience would be those that we would identify that qualify inside our school buildings for the purposes of the only armed. Where Able Shepherd is going to come in and they're going to look at more global approach to looking at unarmed and armed. Because the bottom line is everyone has a role or in a situation, God forbid, that presents inside these campuses. So that's what we look to you for, to potentially be that bridge to bring armed and unarmed on the same page. Moving forward.
Able Shepherd provides a comprehensive look. So where we felt faster, maybe didn't. And so this is our third meeting now with Jenny and 15. And we want to have parents here as well, the comprehensiveness of what they provide to receive of that.
You guys have access to this, what I keep referring to is called fair schedule. It just means what does it take? What's the recipe to show this? Inefficiency. And if you got a problem with 2 weeks, they're training for 3 days. We, at my school, my kids' school, we just assessed that program and said, I train for people know this. So we assess those individuals. I'm not going to the facts. We assessed them and went very, very poorly. And I said, if they pass, I'll give you $1,000 to the fundraiser that's my school. I get to do that in my school, right? And now we're training because it's not, it's just in 3 days, we're going to get any county in the and they teach with just firearm. This is not a firearm thing. It's a mentality thing, it's a tactical movement thing, it's all of these different things that must be shown and proven before you ever take on that passive responsibility.
So I spent 5 years working in the psychiatric hospital. I put people in restraints and seclusions 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. We had training, just like you're talking about, and everybody had to be on the same page because when you became involved in a situation where you were going to confront a psychiatric patient that was out of control, everyone around you needed to know the exact same things. So what I'm hearing is that that's what you're saying you want to do for the teachers here with your program.
On your huddle, you do uniform safety.
I was.
The same page.
And
Are you safe?
you can physically engage with people without a firearm. Now, do you want to do that with a firearm in your face? Probably not. But it sounds like what you're doing is just trying to get all the teachers, all the staff, all the people that are here to protect the students in this school, all on the same page for what you're going to do. Right?
Correct. Correct.
That's what I hear.
Because it's something that when a firearm is speaking in terms, when a firearm walks in the door, that's what's needed to prevent that. It doesn't need by everywhere. If your whole little girl comes in your room bleeding, now you just want to stop the bleeding, right? You're going to the emergency medical aid. You're walking up, you see the door, you've got 10 kids, you're evacuated. There's a 10 modules. You've got 6 modules that are in your head. You say, how do you memorize it? I need to know. What's the best way? In my situation, how do you do it? You're not going to do that if you've never done it. So the thing that we're going to create people a small amount of time means when someone responds to say your kids, do you want them familiar or unfamiliar? If you're doing this for the first time, it's very likely you're going to be successful. If you're doing it for the 131st time, it's more likely you're going to say, follow me and leave. Or you're going to do something that you've done before, neural pathways. When you create them, you never try to do them. If they're not created, you get what you get.
I'm not very tall. I'm 5'3". I taught every doctor, nurse, person on the units. I worked in the evenings when the doctors weren't there at the psych hospital for 5 years. We all went to training. We all knew how to do it together. And I was the one that taught it. This little 5'3" girl. I mean, it just sounds like you need to teach the teachers, and that's what you're advocating is teaching everybody to be on the same page. That's it. Sorry.
First, I would like to thank the board for the effort that you're doing. I really do appreciate the concern for the safety. I thank you for your service and what you're doing. A question that my daughter asked me to ask is she's anxious and nervous about the idea of our teachers. I think a lot of us have been in the military, we're used to seeing people with guns, we're used to seeing security guards, whatever. In your experience with the schools or our churches that have done this, how about the kids? What experience have they had? Do they get anxious? Are they anxious about people with concealed carry? And what do you do to alleviate the kids' concerns?
Do it more. Means that my kids are not, they don't freak out about this because they see a lot. Right? They see, I'm the guy that does the blindfolds and press the fire alarm and they come under the walls. And it was weird at first, and now it's funny. But they know exactly where to go. The first drill, my daughter came outside the front door. She crawled down the stairs and into the house to the garage. It's like the front door. She went back into the house. But never known it was supposed to drill. Now, that's the only time she ever messed up. And every year after that, she got walking reality-based training scenarios. So those are the kind of things that we must do. And if you did it once every blue moon, it's going to freak the kids out. If they go, I wouldn't call it an active killer drill. Well, I don't know why that would make a difference. We can rename it and say this is an emergency. It's not a fire. Because we need to change gears, right? So there's companies out there that can do this. When we were doing this in Weld County, it was chaos because they didn't know what to do. Those things will not tell you what to do. They will not tell you to run or hide or fight. Because if you run, you go the wrong way, you die, you sue. If you hide, we find you, so your family's going to sue. If you fight and lose, you're sued. Like, so I'm not going to tell you, Thursday is Blue Point has been activated. Police are on the way. Police are notified, something like that. You're like, so what do I do? So you fall back to some defend modules. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. It's all you to say, no. Just this. my responsibility for my kids, right? I would partner with like-minded people like myself to do what I can. You said, I'll do whatever I have to protect my children, period. I'm just care about my children, I care about your children. That's why my life is the way it is.
Jimmy, if I could segue onto your question, sir. So if the student or students or student bodies are aware of who's caring, we have a major communication breakdown because this would be a very confidential aspect as to who those individuals would be. And right now, that is still up for discussion. But my intent would be that it would be a very select few people inside these campuses that would know who that individual was that was considered a fireman of the person. I don't even know if the entire board would know who that individual would be. It would be very, very confidential. That would be the intent of this moving forward if the board decides to proceed forward with this. So students should not be aware of who that person is, just like when you get on airplane or flight, you know, they had somewhere, you don't know who the air marshal is. That would be the intent behind this.
Yeah, and I like that. What I think though is, at least the daughter expressed sort of knowing somebody has it. And obviously all the work board proceed with this. But is there going to be, I think the students know that there are teachers, not necessarily who's on, but are there kids that have been experiencing anxiety because of status?
My question would be, so we had an individual that was between both campuses last year and individuals in SRO. Would that be the same notion of anxiety?
No, I think the way the doctor expressed it is that it's, you're used to law enforcement in uniform. It's not knowing, you know, and there's perhaps maybe some knowledge, but if they see somebody in a uniform carrying a gun, there's a certain expectation kids have. I think it's more the expectation of walking in the classroom and wondering if the teacher has.
It's a great question. That, quite honestly, depending on how the board postures, that's something we can eliminate. Whether that's folks that are in non-teacher roles, non-classroom roles, that would be separated out to the ones that we've identified versus those that would be in the classroom. So those are conversations and discussions that can happen, and of course, we need to have legal involvement on that as well.
The other thing I want to add is this is being done, like my school, this is they are, and everybody knows that some of this. And actually, we got more, some people left the school and they're like, especially with world change, right? People are like, one of the first questions on the tour of the school is, what are you doing to protect my kids? And they get to say, more than anybody else. Okay, sign me up. So you're watching the same things I'm watching. So this is happening, and it's unfortunate.
Mark McWilliams, previous board president, God bless you all. Because it's a tough job making these decisions that some people aren't going to love and some people are really begging for. To protect my kid, whatever it takes to protect my kid. Don't let my kid be one of the ones you value. I know you value. I grew up down there. If there can be any way to protect them in that horrific scenario that, Lord, we all were shocked 20 plus years ago when it happened up at Columbine. That ever conceived such a thing. This has never happened. This is crazy. This is insane. I keep hearing the word insane. That's freaking insane. What's even more insane is right now how often it's happening in America. We got to do everything we can to protect our kids. Now, I absolutely applaud that you started a company to go in and do training beyond what even military we had. We didn't have training like that. And I agree, when the bullets start flying, crap hits the fan, I get that. But I also know that there's got to be somebody that's a sheepdog that stands up and says, I'm here to protect. It sounds like our board is really doing a great job trying to say, and let's create a policy where we solicit the opportunity for who wants to try out for a really great sheepdog job. And then they gotta go through weeks of training, not 8 hours, weeks of training. I've done some of that training in the past. Holy cow, is it tough. It is really tough. I love that we're taking that serious, where a couple of people that it's sounding more and more like probably not teachers. So this arming teachers mantra that keeps coming up is not really what I'm hearing. I'm hearing we're finding some people who want to be a sheepdog to protect our sheep when some crazy idiot comes in. Now, I want to address one other topic with that, because I'm not sure everybody knows, because it sure as heck didn't make the media. You remember the idiot that went into a theater up here in Denver? Batman movie. How many other theaters did he go to first? Does anyone know? What was he looking for? No. What else? What was he looking for? And he kept leaving theaters to go find one that had it. Anybody know? A sign that said, "No guns allowed." That is documented in his interview after they captured him. I went to 4 other theaters first, and they didn't have the sign, so I was looking for the sign because I knew no one would shoot back at me. Crazy, not stupid. It was a planned effort. He was crazy, not stupid. So far, what's happening in America, unfortunately, are crazy, not stupid. And most of them aren't trained. Most of them bought the gun the other day, and we're dealing with that problem separately. But right now, we want to protect our kids against crazy but not stupid. And for them to see something or know that that school is going to defend itself and it's going to cost him quickly. By God, I want my kids safe. And I appreciate it if you've created something that's going to take whoever is volunteering for that, which it sounds like it's very few, that we're going to have. They got to go through a lot of training, recurring training, gun safety training, every aspect of what it takes to be a sheepdog to protect my kids and yours. As a previous board president, I was looking at this as well, didn't have these options, didn't even know about it. If I had, we'd been pursuing that. But I appreciate you guys even considering it. Thank you.
And I appreciate you guys. You talk about educating children and training your kids specifically. Do you put literature out there for parents to train their kids at home what to do in situations like this? And do we train the students, maybe not elementary students, but high school students are capable? Do we train them what to do in situations like this? If you're not supposed to run and fight, what do you want these high school students who are capable of thinking in situations to do? Do you train children?
We don't well cast, some written information, we have critical install that in our home, school, in the church, all of those things. On those defense modules, they're what we're doing for firearm, obviously. Run, hide, fight, again, I'm not knocking it, that's a great place to start. The problem is you're not teaching people how to run, hide, and fight. You just say the words, right? It's that, so yes, the answer is yes.
So is that part of the parents' work comes home to us from the board, from school administration, or?
It could be. They talk about, you know, mention culture, what does that look like? That includes kids. It includes everybody.
Parents, volunteers, and
Correct. It has, so that's like volunteers. You just come to one CPR and stop the bleed, and then you say, I'm going to be a basketball team. And again, the community is born out of that. Specifically, I focus on churches for making that such an adhesive thing, because people need everything. We forgot that we needed it. We need it. Our mottos take care of it. We forgot that we needed it, right? So when you do that, there's a whole other element that happens in the energy within the group. So yes, all we work around the kid, make sure that all that. But it affects everything. Absolutely.
thank you.
So I do feel for y'all that are trying to make these decisions. And one of the gentlemen that spoke, times definitely have changed. Since my first two sons were raised, we had never, I think they were taught to hike, for earthquake, right? My high school now 3 times in middle school, in elementary school, the school was evacuated for different security needs. Middle school, a child had a principal tackled a child in the backpack. Care that situation. So obviously times have changed. And we do care for our children about security. However, and I know during MA, this is our second year here, we have faster that have this presentation. And I value the security presentation. After school, during school, you can lock the door somewhat. After school, sporting events, track team, doors wide open, everything, security, back doors, playgrounds. We can't lock people out if they want to get in. But still, I feel that one of my questions is that if we have a faster presentation and your presentation as well, is it a foregone conclusion that Monument Academy will have our staff? Or we're still in the development? I know you have a meeting tonight,
It is not a foregone conclusion. We have to come before this board.
and their parents as well.
Well, we brought it before the parents.
Right, and that's part of this.
And that's part of this, we did town hall style back in March, was faster. So this is the engagement that we're looking for.
So it's continuing. So we're not, if this is, let's assume and hope that if this does happen, that we go this route, that parents will be informed that this is part of MA.
It would have to be formalized through a resolution.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Culture. A former school teacher, I have my notes here, I have my questions. Many of them have been answered already tonight, which I'm really grateful for. But a few things. We talked about actual weapons, talked about lock safe. Will the weapons actually be kept in a lock safe in the room? Will it be on the body? I mean, there's so many things that we have, to me, have not been answered, just the practicalities of having a weapon.
This is one of the sorts of questions that it's really difficult because you want to honor and be transparent, but you also, I'm just urging you, I don't know how you're going to answer, but we need to also not tell the world and broadcast what the protocols are. So I'm urging you to be cautious next time.
But as a parent, that is my number one question. I mean, I know I walk into King Supers, there's men walking with guns on their belts, and I know we're in the open carry state. I hear, I'm sitting in the car line out of school, I hear guns and dogs on the shooting in the field. 4th of July, the neighbors are shooting guns. I mean, it's obviously part of our reality. But, what is, how will this be done? That's my question. When will it be only in school setting? Will it be after school? Will it be sporting events? Will it be, where the scope of this go on for us? What is the data? I know this is a question I'm not expecting answers tonight. What is the data of accidental discharge in the school setting? What is the data on the student gaining access to that? What is the liability of a staff person leaves it, or makes it accessible to the student, inadvertently, there's a liability there. Right, will staff undergo psychological training before they carry a weapon? Or carry or have access to a weapon, I guess. And again, will parents be notified? And what if this happens? And what is the ratio really to have a safe situation? So say a science teacher or principal is armed. There's 40 other classrooms in the building. Is there a ratio of you feel like you have a protected area, school zone?
Jimmy, have you addressed the intersection of which you would propose, and local law enforcement, and how that, how they sort of overlap?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's called deconfliction. That's one of the things that bothers me that isn't commonplace among security guards. The real story of what happened in Stanford, there's just a lot of things that can't be figured out before the fact. I would say get local law enforcement on board. They're happy to do it, but they too are busy. So the more that you can integrate them with that, it's called blue on blue when good guys shoot good guys. It's more common than you think. There's things you must do before the situation in order to mitigate any of that stuff. So there's so many more factors to look at, and data is obviously good. There's some of the data you look at and say, I can tell you 100% everybody I trained have never done that. They've never had to, they've never had any of this stuff. But I know it's happened. And I know that there is a lack of training amongst this country. If you saw what police officers get for training, I think you would second guess everything. Like I said, as long as the police, do you understand what we're saying when they're training more than the police in this proven? Do you think they have to do that every 6 months? They certainly do not. Nor can they. I don't think it becomes a challenge. I understand there are SWAT teams that are good officers, but they're defund them. They have out of pocket to do training. So we're saying yes, there must be some. It must be more.
But again, as a parent, if I know that teachers have guns on their, like the man walking the police supers the other day, my child wouldn't either. Now, if it is in a safe and only the person who, is licensed or not licensed, trained, and has access to that, absolutely, absolutely, they still be here at school. But if there's people just overcarrying, and I think as parents, we need to know, is that part of the plan? Because you have your training steps, but again, I haven't read that sheet, so I don't know how the weapons will be stored, how they will be carried. To me, that's the number one question as a parent.
So, Ryan, you want to go ahead and say,
There absolutely be no open carry. That just will not happen. Secondly, regarding the concealed pad, again, it's not something we would telegraph to the community as to who it may be. My belief would be, and legal may back this up and say, you would just know that there are individuals that are inside these respective
I'm
buildings.
not going to know who it was, but I need to know that the weapon is on them. And then another gentleman said about theaters, where you have, it's easy to serve someone, but having, large staff in school, or you have to sign up for them, it's like,
This decision is still up with the board. But
if that makes
it is common. There are schools that have those signs.
All the other schools here do have those signs. So you can see them. And if you want the email address, I can send you, there's a crime research prevention center that puts together KPET statistics. And I'd be happy to send that to you, that they collected for the 20 years old. Crime Prevention Research Center. Well, you have to look at, they've actually updated their studies just recently over the course of the last month as well.
okay. And I just thank you for keeping this in consideration. Obviously, all parents do not feel that this is the best situation or solution for our school. Is this going to be for elementary and East Campus as well? Is this the whole emulator?
Right, typically, both campuses.
Well, I think it's important for us to keep in mind that, and I know we've used this phrase multiple times over the course of the many meetings we had, this is a whole toolbox approach. It's not just our staff.
Right. I appreciate I love all the tools.
Yeah. And
There's a lot.
it's important, that because most of us are not used to carrying our firearms or around, having them around. So it is a big, we understand that, it is a big change. And all of this really is a huge change as a culture and a society to begin to think in a culture of safety, which is what I hear you talking about. And factually, we know that if we do not practice something, we won't do anything. It is factual that if we do not practice and train on a regular basis, we will freeze. It's fight or flight, and most of the time, people freeze in scenarios like this after shooter situation because we
not prepared. And what I hear Mr. Graham talking about this program, which is more than just arming staff, it's everybody has a role. Everyone who's in this building, parents, volunteers, teachers, staff, it may not be that they're going to have the grant there, but everybody has a role, and we are all practicing, and we are all training together at every level, parents to teachers to the janitor. They're all creating and helping to create this culture of safety. And this is new for us, and we've said it, we hate that we have to do this, we hate that we have to talk about this in these kinds of meetings, but we absolutely must. It's insane. We keep using that word to not have a training and to, on a regular basis, to not create a culture of safety in our schools now. We are beyond not having this anymore. Children, the students, I mean, if they see Janitor Man with a weapon, they don't know Janitor Man. I mean, how do they come around and
There can be
feel
that.
safe and helpful?
I've done trainings in the past where kids did the part that they did. And if you watch the videos of them, if you saw this with your peer, then they are working with the teacher. In reality, they were shot for days. Looking at the video was recorded on different days and they were in the same way. So you might see someone taking appropriate measure, and the camera comes over and you see children writing. That was 2 different days, right? What they need to know is when I say to do this, you do this. When I say to do that, you do this. And it must be practiced more and more.
And that's the whole classroom culture. I mean, as a teacher, for the most part, kids do like tell them to do. They don't get just because that's our culture.
Right.
You know, so you have to tell them what to do in a safety situation.
Now they know the role.
Well, I just want to say one kind of thing is, we appreciate, this is all of our processing together. It's not just us making the decisions. We hear and we greatly value the input of our community. It's not falling on deaf ears. We all have several children in this school. And so thank you for asking the questions. Everybody who was asked tonight, and I'm not just trying to want to share my heart. You know, this is not falling on deaf ears. What you guys are sharing with everybody. So we're all part of the solution, and there's great value.
And I appreciate that as we go along, that as parents, we will, you know, again, be informed as you're all trying to, but, you know, be informed with as much detail as you can. Absolutely. Because obviously this is the basic, we had our just say in schools that, you know, listening and, part of what our academy as well. Thank you.
I wonder if the gentleman from here with the military background would entertain a question. Would you be willing to answer? Okay, thanks. Because and this isn't to argue with you at all. I'm actually I'm seeing both sides of it, and really a little bit on the fence on parts of it. And I'm curious if you were a staff member and there was an active shooter situation that happened. Let's say you got kids in a couple of classrooms and that shooter had scored one of those classrooms. Although I bet if you worked here, you care about the kids anyway. But I'm curious, would you wish you had your gun? I mean, would you want to be able to take action in that moment to protect students?
No, actually I wouldn't. And here's why. For me, prevention, right, is a lot more responsible when you're dealing with other people's children. So even in my house, everybody locks the doors in their house. Most people have cameras, right? That's to stop people from coming in and for you to know what's going on. I don't have the statistics memorized, but I can tell you that everything that I've seen and read, proper equipment on doors to make sure the doors are not accessible, and the proper doors are installed so that they don't have like the security is much more effective than arming teachers, right? Teachers are there to keep us out of No.
And that's a teacher, it's a staff member, so anyway.
I would rather have software equipment so I can keep the kids safe and wait for authorities.
But what I'm wondering is, I mean, what if it's already, somebody's already in school? And the reason I ask is because my husband innocently once last taken out of it. What if somebody gets in and it's happening? I would imagine you feel really helpless, but that's why I'm asking you the question. Because,
So just to give you an example, I'm sure everybody's driven past the military bases on especially in the springs. There's more than just that guard sitting at the gate, checkpointing cars to stop somebody from getting into the military base, right? There's different safeguards and there's steps and processes so that you can stop somebody. Even if they reach the first door, right? You can easily, if you went to the military base, you can easily probably drive right through the car. But there's other things to stop it from going further to control it, right? So that's what I'm getting at. So there's other less lethal methods to keep our kids safe without harming people. And so yeah, the question for me, I would not feel comfortable if I was a teacher or walking around with the staff carrying around with all this. I wouldn't. I think prevention is much better.
Thanks for and then, I just want to say, regardless of the days, on this, please, going back to, Mr. McWilliams's example of your Aurora, theater. Okay, so anyway. Sorry, we cannot publicize that we don't have the guns on our campuses, because I feel like it's an invitation.
I'm not saying creation, sorry, I have so much to say, but I'm not. When did Columbine happen? I didn't pay attention to news at that point, and I wasn't here at Columbine. 1999. I worked in the Highlands Ranch as a restaurant manager in 2013, and I had 16-year-olds that were working for me as hostesses, and they still, Columbine didn't have one in school, and those kids still had mental health days in 2014 because they were in that school. I had to feel as their boss the days that they had the anxiety. So if you talk about your daughter having anxiety about someone having a gun on campus, I personally have had to deal with kids that still go to Columbine even after it happened, and they have anxiety. I don't know what the cause, what happened at the school that they could bring it up, but just those kids that went to that same school 15 years later, right, we're dealing with the situation. So I think that it is imperative. I have a 3-year-old who went to preschool in B11, and they had to have practices on leaving the classrooms. Whatever they said, why, they made practice that to go to school. And then if you listen to STEM, I listened to a parent that had a recording of STEM when it was happening. And there was something that was being broadcast across the school, and maybe it was that high run thing. So I don't know, does Monument have something like that if a situation came into play that is like a broadcast that all students would hear? Is that something that really makes sense to do? I don't know.
It absolutely makes sense, again, to let people know that there's a problem here, it's not a fire. Right, because then your situation always goes into a different gear, and you take those different types of precautions. Can't speak to what's on board right now, but it is very much a direction we're going.
All right, well, that's my experience online.
You should go.
Oh, wait, go ahead. You're good.
I have a question, I'm just gonna make a comment, because we've been in D3, I have a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, and we've been in D3 all along. We are moved to, as I mentioned earlier, and maybe this will answer your question, but we did have our staff in our elementary school and in our high school, and the kids were unaware, as well as us, of who those people were. I didn't see that they exhibited anxiety. Not from my personal experience, it doesn't mean that doesn't happen. But they do know the difference between like lockdown and lockout, because we've had plenty of situations here where we've had, people in the area, maybe not necessarily a threat to the school, but they've been around with a weapon or something because our law enforcement was chasing
them, and they were still taught to do those drills, and so they do know the difference, and that has been pretty standard here as long as I've been here. So, and we did have signs as well that said on all of our campuses that indicate that there's armed security. So I was just gonna mention all of that since we've been in the district.
My name's Josh Brettauer. I have 2 daughters here at Monument Academy. And we've been pretty instrumental, my family is, as well as just kind of, 35 or so parent volunteers over the last several years of just, helping school do exactly what we're doing. Figure out what we need to make our kids safe, but also to make our teachers and staff safe, right? I mean, everybody that walks, you said, everybody that walks on that campus. Even when I walk on that campus to see my kids perform or in class, I want to make sure that they are safe no matter what. And I don't care what they do, right? I do want to thank you for the because you guys are beyond what we can ask. You guys are just going right above and beyond. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for having this discussion in a forum like we're having right now, because I know I talked to my sister this afternoon, and she's in Pennsylvania, and they don't have these discussions. It's not even up for debate. And so, thank you guys for doing what you're doing. I want to also tackle kind of a misconception I think is that we're not asking every staff member or every teacher to carry. I personally don't want every teacher and staff member to carry. I know and love all the teachers that my kids have had, but I also know in those conversations that those teachers don't feel comfortable, which I'm completely okay with. But what I'm not okay with is going to a gunfight with a knife, right? And that's exactly what a lot of schools are doing right now. They're not prepared. And so I don't mean to get into a debate either, sir, but, and I appreciate your candor, I appreciate your honesty. You're not the guy, and I'm not the guy. I wouldn't probably be comfortable with that either, right? But I do know that there are several teachers on each campus, hopefully, and staff members that are willing to step up, like Mark said. And I want a school where there are several staff members or teachers that are willing to step up for my kids. Because I'm not going to feel comfortable sending my 2 girls here. And that's exactly what my 11-year-old told me tonight before I left. Dad, you go fight. You go fight for our security. You go fight for our safety. Right? And that's exactly what we're going to do. I want my kids to come home every day at 3 o'clock. I want them to be able to tell me what amazing things they're learning from the amazing staff we have. It's the reason I send my kids here. The staff that we have here, you can't find it anywhere else. That's my firm belief. I may be completely wrong, but this is why I send my kids to Monument Academy. So, sir, thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate it.
In regards to older kids, what mitigations are in place if children are using children?
said this many times in meetings leading up to this campus is a long way out. And if there is nobody on this campus that's our SRO, private security, our staff member, we could be 7 to 8 minutes before we see the first individual that's on the day. So to answer your question, it's a reality that we face as a board, as a school, most schools face, but no, we identified something that's brought into a backpack.
Okay, and then in regards to your training, I know you mentioned that staff, teachers, moving children within the building, like how would that, can you like describe more of like that protocol?
So evacuating, if that individual needed it safer to move the children, so say, or if they're shooting the building, would make sense to come in. Makes sense to like, where you go. Those are the kind of conversations we can have beforehand. And I think part of that is the training, and just back a little bit to your question with the safety culture that I mentioned, we talked about this in the previous meeting. What's rewarded is repeated. What's permitted is promoted, right? We understand those things. Is I just did this, sharing a story at my house. My daughter, I remember messing with the garage door, and she's like, hey, Dad, this garage door that we trusted for years to act right. She talked it after I opened the door. And I was like, thank you, sir. That's amazing. And I fixed it. I said, jump in the car, to the grand office, like, hey, Sarah, get us more safe. You know, so you should have people jockeying to say that they see something, if it's a backpack or something like this, whatever. It's like, it's easy to talk yourself out of things. Those notions. You know, like, even if you're just doing it for the Chick-fil-A gift card, hey, I heard some stuff, good job, you know, and they can take you on. Because we overlook that stuff because we don't talk ourselves out of things, but it's a reward. You know, and you're getting one, and it should be allowed to be wrong. Don't be wrong, but hey, is it Chick-fil-A gift card? Right, so then you do it, and you're like, oh, that's really a thing. You actually know to record it, and that's true. You know, that's I think, what the discussion about.
How do we get to Chick-fil-A gift card?
See something, say something.
Hello. I'm a teacher here at Auburn Academy at both campuses, and I do have some questions about the fundraising, the program, and how many staff the goal is from a fundraising standpoint on each campus to be armed. How many is too few, and how many would there even be a too many?
I don't know how you can identify, we typically don't recommend less than two. Like that can be, even if we provide security at some point, we've got that road, there should be another individual that knows this property, because one person is very easy, if you know who like the SRO is, or like I was in one county, one SRO, doors open, and he gets injured, you got 23 minutes if there's no train. It's a bad deal, right? So it just means that there should be other people. Even on church security, you're not open to carry, there should be someone, on duty that says security. Other people you don't know. So I think it's a very number, not less than two. I don't know that I've ever had a problem with too many. And I know it's not a good answer, but I think one's
For the board team, it's a huge push, because I don't think anyone's pushing against the security protocols that you have to offer us, except for weapons. And it's contentious with everything else everyone's passionate about. So if it's as a concern, like if there's not enough staff carrying, does that begin to change the culture of who gets hired here? We need more people carrying here. So is that going to start being part of the interview process? Are we going to start phasing out teachers who don't want to carry? That's what I mean as far as too many or not enough. That concerns.
To answer your question, for me, confused, that's a given for me. As to the number, as to how many, I don't have the answer to that, but my belief is that there's not going to be many. And no, I have a say in the direction of the school when it comes to hiring the entire teachers or staff, that's not going to be part of an interview question. Are you okay, Karen? No, you're not. And therefore, that would be off the table. At least that would be what my position would be sitting on this board. Further, if there are other teachers, say every teacher in both campuses said, absolutely not, this is not for me, I'm not caring. That does not, to me, matter. What does matter is that we have somebody, whether it's a staff member that's outside of the teaching role, that can engage a threat if a threat presents itself in the school without waiting on law enforcement. Law enforcement will be the first to tell you that it could be a 3-minute response, it could be a 13-minute response. We know how the weather gets out here. We're waiting for officers from Monument or a deputy from El Paso or even state patrol to engage to get to the school. It could be a long time waiting. And my assurance is this: if there was somebody inside this campus, everybody would be wishing that that person was engaged by somebody that could put them down and neutralize that threat. And that is something I wholeheartedly believe. Because while we're waiting, all our teachers, all our students, all our staff, all our kids are waiting, it's not going to be good for anybody.
Yeah, that was stuff on for logistics. And, a lot of the vulnerabilities that we see, like Northwood Project, and a lot of the things that we are certainly trained not to do are happening due to inconveniences. So I'm hoping that we also are able to create a culture that I know it's a pain for parents to have to sign in, like for concerts or awards, whatever it is. So are there ways to implement more efficient processes? I've still got to go through that, so we're so sorry, but it's an inconvenience.
I think that's part of what we like assessing guys too. I mean, we'll share because I have this conversations with them as well, like and Jimmy talks a lot about, as mentioned before, with his kids. You know, you train your kids to hold doors open, it's polite, you know. Right now. But when we walk in that door to come into the lot, into the first entrance, you shouldn't be holding the door for everybody else. One person in, door closes. So yes, I mean, that would be my expectation with artists as well. I'd like to know from the teachers, what are the inconveniences that you see, or there are reasons why these things happen, we can address them.
I don't know that it's too bad during the school day. We're pretty good at everything, but it's usually after school or during special events or parents that don't want the inconvenience. That's, I think, and after school sports things, I've been broke down because I pulled a doorstop closed.
And this conversation is happening, we've been having as well with administration and others, so those are, you know, there's a lot of dialogue going on. But I appreciate asking. Encourage more.
Inconvenience is part of it.
Zach, one question.
When you guys started fundraising a couple of years ago, you were looking at metal detectors and weapons detectors. Where does that stand? Why do you not have this in place? Why should we get things that we're investing in primarily? These are there to prevent things from coming in, especially as our high school grows, we start having actions at the high school inside the building.
The conversation has been had, and the unfortunate reality of metal detectors is and it is very easy, as we just listened tonight, to hear that one parent that mentioned her husband just walked in the back door and was pretty astounding. And situations like that, when we talk about getting this right, and it's an inconvenience, but we have to be right 100% of the time. It only takes us messing up to the school once to expose that vulnerability, and then that's exploited. Those metal detectors up there are obsolete at that point. So Jimmy's talking about tonight, this safety, this cultural mindset, you know, to me, it's a lifestyle. It's a way that Monument Academy needs to more or less do business. You know, we need to develop everybody, whether armed or unarmed. And even if the board shot down staff, our teachers, our kids on what to do. But to answer that question, yes, metal detectors, it's a significant expense. They require maintenance, of course, and they require somebody that knows how to understand. As we all walk through metal detectors tonight, if we go through TSA, every single one of us in this room, you're removing jewelry, belts, shoes potentially. So the question becomes, how do you do that in a timely manner to get kids? If we create a prison here, ultimately children, parents will go, hey, this is not for us. That's not the immediate idea around this to create that prison. We just need to be able to further enhance our safety and security measures that we already have in place and further be able to meet that extreme that if that presents itself in London Academy, we will have somebody or individuals that are able to meet that threat. So that would be my opinion on metal detectors.
I just want, I guess I should have said, I just want to make sure that we're weighing all the options and taking everything into, I'm sure you are, but I just want, that was a question on my mind with the preventative measures and weighing the risks and benefits and moving forward for certain ones versus others. That's all.
A lot of the decisions that are made, unfortunately, nowadays it comes down to financial. There's a limited amount of money that can go around. As a charter school, it's even less than our traditional public schools. And therefore, if we start appropriating a tremendous amount of money to enhance metal detectors at every door, that's a pretty significant cost to do so. So we're trying to look at this not only from a fiscally minded, how can we protect these students, but without overstepping, of course, and just writing a front lunch check, if you will, and saying, hey, let's put $1 million towards this. And I hate to be the one to sit up here and say, gosh, there's a financial aspect to this, but that's the reality. We allocate everything to that one thing with London Academy. There's a lot of other areas, the purpose of why we're here to educate children in the way. And what we're looking at with this program is very, very fiscally conservative when it comes to the appropriation of dollars to do this. Much, much less than even hiring another SRO.
Gotcha. Good question. Do you currently collaborate with the district on their security protocols? Do you have the same system that you do?
There is collaboration, and that typically happens, at the administrative level. So I personally do not collaborate with the district, but I know that our admin team does on some of the security protocols that they have in place.
Right, and so, as far as, what you have currently, had in the last year, do you have lockdown drills and
Yes, ma'am.
fire drills, and do the children know which is which, and have different alarms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, the child that lets somebody in, or has been trained or educated not to have done that, if they, you have a proper program in place, right? I mean, that's something that the kid knows in school, right? You don't open the door.
I could make the assumption, but for me, I can't stand by that. Just because we educate a child not to do that, our children have good hearts. They see me standing at the door, I can assure you that, I wouldn't let in. Granted, I've had a badge on, but the point is, I don't recognize that child, they don't recognize me, and at the end of the day, that is a concern, because it would be very easy for somebody to posture away, look like they should be there and walk right in. So I hope that our children are being taught, but I can't tell you that, just because they are being taught, that will, translate into the world.
Which is what you have alarms on the doors.
Some of the doors do. Everybody's shaking their head over there. So, but, a door can get propped open for 2 or 3 seconds to let somebody in. My understanding, the alarm in some of those will not go off. Is that correct?
Sometimes the alarm can be turned off and the door propped open and then it would not go off. That is true.
So I'm a little nervous that you're talking about this in public.
Unfortunately, this is the dialogue that, we wanted to bring to the community, but it's so pressing for us to do something quickly. We talk about why is this now? This conversation, my hope is that we bring this back in March or April for this coming school year. Here we are at the end of July, and school starting next month. But I assure you, as someone sitting on this board, my intent is to make sure come start of school that we have people in place to protect these campuses. And a lot of these vulnerabilities that we're discussing in open session are addressed immediately.
So, along the lines where even though we're discussing the session, could it be prevented from being our community news?
No, sir. It cannot be. This is an open meeting, this is an open dialogue, and everything that we're doing here is open to public. It can be pushed far away. So,
Just one item, monopolize it to myself. So I would just ask if you might consider as an additional resource this Colorado School Safety Resource Center. It's a vulnerability assessment. They've got the phone number on their website. They're doing this in addition to what that is providing this yet another resource.
absolutely. Glad to receive that. Sir. Community, is there any further questions, dialogue? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session. Somebody would like to read the citation?
I'll motion to adjourn to executive session. Pursuant to CRS 74-6-2, LLB and Hunt, to discuss COO job performance and to receive legal advice on specific matters related to school leadership.
This is, please strike that from the record. That's not correct. That's okay. I'll go ahead and read the motion. I hereby motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B to receive legal advice on specific legal matters in regards to discussion of specialized details of security arrangements. Any further discussion on said motion? Seeing none, looks like we lost Mr. Delisle. Mr. Richkowski, how do you vote, sir? Aye. Mr. Carly? Aye. Mrs. Clinton? Aye. Mrs. McEwen? Aye. Mr. O'Brien? Aye. For the record, I vote aye. We will adjourn to executive session to our community. So what we will do is we're going to leave and head to a conference room where we'll meet in conference with our attorney on specific legal matters regarding school safety and security. Our intent will be to come back. I cannot tell you how long that's going to take to be at that meeting. It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. You're welcome to stay here. And from there, we'll be back at some point this evening. At least hopefully not tomorrow. Test, test. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in open session. We have adjourned from executive session. Tonight, we do have one item requiring board discussion and action, and that is school safety and security. At this point, I'm going to read a resolution aloud regarding the school safety and security. Whereas Monument Academy, MA, in El Paso County, Colorado, is a nonprofit corporation and a local public body acting by its board of directors. And whereas the members of the board of directors of the school, the board, have been duly elected, chosen, and qualified. And whereas the board has a duty to ensure a safe learning environment. And whereas the board believes that students may only learn effectively if they feel safe and are physically protected from threats. And whereas the board wishes to ensure that to the maximum extent possible, Monument Academy will be prepared for and ready to protect students and staff from any active shooter situation or similar threat. And whereas pursuant to CRS 18-12-2143B, individuals permitted by law to carry a concealed handgun may carry a concealed handgun onto real property of Monument Academy or into any improvements erected thereon, to include the East Campus and the West Campus, if they are employed or retained by contract by Monument Academy as a school security officer. And whereas the board wishes to provide rigorous training to employees of Monument Academy who are vetted, qualified, and able to conceal a handgun on campus as a school security officer for the protection of students and staff. And whereas Able Shepherd is a progressive training program that teaches situational awareness, armed and unarmed protective tactics to stop school violence quickly and administer medical aid immediately. Able Shepherd is not intended as a replacement for law enforcement officers and emergency medical technicians. Instead, it enables on-site personnel to save lives through prompt action. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board will immediately commence, number one, the board will immediately commence vulnerability assessments for purposes of furthering school safety and security assessments to include both East and West campuses, with a report to the board no later than October 15th. Number two, the board will immediately commence a vetting process to determine whether there are existing staff members of Monument Academy, excluding teachers at this time, who are qualified, willing, and able to commence training with Able Shepherd. Number three, the board will not require or force any staff member to conceal a handgun, but will work to send a minimum of one vetted and qualified employee from each campus to Able Shepherd training. Number four, the board will continuously vet qualified staff members beyond the fall of 2022 to work towards the goal of always ensuring that Monument Academy has armed school security personnel on both campuses to protect students and staff. Number five, the board will mandate and require that any staff member who is selected and qualified by Monument Academy and trained by Able Shepherd to conceal a handgun on campus must re-qualify every 6 months and complete board-mandated evaluations per school security officer contractual agreements. Number six, unless employed by Monument Academy for the sole purposes of security, all staff members who are qualified as school security officers will remain confidential, such that students and parents will not be aware of who may be concealing a handgun on campus. Number seven, the board will work diligently in the next 12 months to further develop school safety policies in collaboration with the threat assessment team that further protects students and staff and prepares the school for an active shooter situation or similar threat.
I will second that.
So we have a second to the resolution. Board, further discussion on said resolution.
So I'd like to speak a little bit regarding this resolution. For some of you that know, I've wavered on this issue for months in my own mind, going back and forth whether it's either necessary or effective to arm faculty and staff in the school. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about why tonight this is my vote that yes, I do in the end support this. That was a long read, what I just did, but there's a couple things I wanted to point out for you, the community. The first part of the resolution, number 1 on the list, is that the board is going to immediately perform security vulnerability assessments for both campuses. That was first and foremost in the list of tasks, the list of priorities in this resolution. We heard from the community about that tonight, how important that is. We've heard from it in our surveys, and it's been important to me as well, and it's addressed here. Number 2, this resolution at this time excludes teachers. So at this point, Monument Academy is not looking to harm the teachers in the classrooms. Instead, we're looking to harm other staff within the school. Right? Hopefully that will address some of those concerns about having the teachers armed in the classrooms. Third, for me, the Able Shepherd program appeared to be the better one compared to FASTER. There's probably multiple reasons for that, such as the requirement for ongoing training and requalification with the teachers, and for the ability for Able Shepherd to work with local law enforcement so that law enforcement, the SROs, and the armed staff would be on the same page tactically in the event of a situation. So I have some more reasons as well, but I'll sort of cut it off there to let the community know that in the end, this has finally earned my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Krasinski. Board, any further comment?
So, this, tonight was important because we wanted to also have Able Shepherd really speak to everybody in the measures that can comprehensively provide services to our school. And after the first time that we met with them, that was really what gave me a lot of peace about proceeding forward with this as well, was just the feeling of the comprehensive security plan, really walking through how every person can fill a role and creating that culture of security in our school. And as we, as a school, have been on course correction mode and have made some other changes, this feels very in line with that. And so I very, very much support this measure, and it has my approval as well.
I apologize in advance because I'm just going to get emotional. I have 2 reasons that I support this measure. One is Addison, she's going to second grade. The other is Olivia, she's going to kindergarten. The idea that something could happen to either of them that could have been prevented breaks my heart. It's a tragic, broken world that we live in. And it's each of our duties as board members and as members of the collective society to do everything we can to not only protect my 2 kids, but the other 1,148 that attend this school all year round. It is our duty to put forth the best effort that we can to make sure these kids are safe. That being said, it doesn't mean that this is immutable. These things can be changed, they can be adjusted. We can look at other things going forward. But with the timeline and the constraints that are on us, we need to make a decision. Inaction and indecision is the thief of opportunity. And we have been presented with a very unique scenario with Able Shepherd to get in front of an incredibly qualified individual and a group and a team who's willing to say, we want your kids safe too. Not every board does that. Not every school does that. There's a whole lot that don't care what happens to your kids or to my kids. It doesn't exist here. I'm brand new to this board, and I'm sorry that this is the first thing that I have to weigh in on such a heavy, weighty, divisive manner. But you can't sit idly by on the sidelines and let people dictate what choices will be made for a future generation of students that are one day going to be called to these same positions. For those reasons, I plan on voting yes.
I just think with Monument Academy, we have a tradition of excellence here. We're doing phenomenally well. We're very proud to send our kids here, and I think adding safety, improved safety measures makes it even greater. And I'd like to commend the board that's been here, being a brand new member, to really push this since December, and the board members that were here tonight, or past board members that were here tonight supporting it. I'm very confident that this is the correct path for Monument Academy.
Well, I definitely support this, what we're doing tonight, this resolution. It's been months in the making. This isn't a decision that we take lightly or make rashly or quickly. I'm honored to be a part of a team and a board who puts in the time and the effort in the community to have these hard conversations. And I think that through all of the conversations, through all of the meetings, through all of the work, and thank you particularly, Brian, for your hard work on putting together that verbiage. I think it represents us accurately, and it represents our heart as a board and as a leadership of what we are looking to do here in creating a culture of safety. Not to say that that hasn't already been in place at our school, I think it has, but I think that this allows our school to go to the next level that we need to go in keeping our children safe. I hope that it is evident to our school community, our heart as a board, and our heart as the leadership's heart for our school, and our number one priority being the safety of every person who comes into this building. And again, to creating a culture, I know I've said it already tonight, but I think it just needs to continue to be stated that we are serious about creating and fostering a culture of safety at our school at every level, every person who comes in here. And sadly, that is the time that we live in, but that's the reality of the time that we live in. And we need to do all that we can. And I see this resolution as another step in that direction, a very good, strong, confident step in that direction. And I could go on, but I won't, because it's already 9. But this resolution has my full support from both of us all. And thank you, Ryan, for your hard work on that.
Emily, did you want to add anything about the resolution?
All right, board, thank you for your comments, heartfelt. What you shared tonight is, each of you know, it's something I'm very passionate about, protecting our children, period. And this is a step in the right direction. I can't remember which one you said tonight, but there are things we can address. I know we excluded teachers on this resolution, but as we take these initial steps, there's no reason that we can't come back to the drawing board down the road at a later time and have further dialogue on that. When we sent this survey out, 2/3 of our parent community supported this and said this is something they would get behind, bringing our staff into these schools. So I'm very thankful that this board has shown their support tonight in the affirmative. And that said, I will go ahead and call a vote if there's no further discussion. Mrs. Belisle, I'm sorry, do you have any vote tonight? Aye. Mr. Bushka? Chastity.
Aye.
Mr. Clark. Aye. Mrs. Quinn. Aye. Mrs. McEwen.
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien. Aye. And Madam Mayor, for the record, votes aye. The resolution carries, and that will complete our board discussion action items for tonight. If there is a motion to adjourn, I will entertain that. Any opposition?